All right, everybody. Thank you so much for coming. It looks like we've got critical mass, so I think we're probably ready to get going here. My name's Julian. I'm just here to introduce our executive director, Jonathan DeLong, who's going to be giving you this lovely presentation about REAP. And so without any further ado, I'm just going to hand it over to him. Jonathan, you are pinned and ready to go. I'm going to unpin myself, fade into the background, and let Jonathan take over.
Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it. Nice having you all here. I am going to go ahead and share my screen, and we'll just hit the ground running. I'm Jonathan DeLong, as Julian said. I'm the executive director of the REAP Climate Center here in Alameda, California. And I'll tell you more about that as we go, but I'm not going to do too much about me. You can find me on LinkedIn, add me if you want to make a contact. That's totally fine with me. But for now, I'm going to really dive into REAP and some of our strategy and funding goals for 2025. And I'll just jump on through. Covering a lot of ground here today, and I'm going to try to get us out of here in about 30 minutes if I can. So I'll fly on through. There's a lot of information for you. So this will be made available later, so you can watch it slowly if you want and do screenshots and freeze and pause. So don't worry about anything that's missed as we go here today. Nonetheless, I will start out on our high level. We are the REAP Climate Center, and our main goal here is get people working on behalf of climate, right? We're really all about the jobs, but we think there's an arc to that journey. Ultimately, we say play and discovery all the way up through job placement, right? So there's a lot going on in there, but we want to give people ecological experiences, and we want to move them into job training on behalf of climate. We focus mostly on what I call the biodiversity side of the equation. There's a lot of people out there doing work in electrification, right? Batteries, grids, all sorts of stuff, right? Renewable energy technologies, a lot of great stuff out there. We mainly focus on the biodiversity side of the equation and nature-based solutions, and we'll get more into that a little bit later. Ultimately, this slide, sometimes, depending on who I'm presenting to, I actually have broken up into 3 different slides. And that's something you see with regenerative systems a lot, right? There's co-benefits. There's a lot of different stakeholder groups you can serve into when you're looking at that triple bottom line. And so depending on who I'm talking to, our premise really orients itself in 3 different ways. Ultimately, climate risk is business risk, but we really focus on the job side of it. So climate change mitigation is opportunities for communities, for municipalities. But really, we look at it from the workforce development side of things. And, aside from my day job here at the REAP Climate Center, I'm also at a higher level on the Alameda County Workforce Development Board, county supervisor appointed. I focus on green job opportunities there for our 1.7 million residents. And I also do work with the Sea Level Rise Adaptation Planning Group for the estuary and the bay and the island. And I don't mention these things to tell you more about myself, as much to say that we or people within our organization are in these places, being a part of these groups to A, look for where we're deploying or can push for nature-based solutions, and then what jobs are coming down the pipe. And so I'm going to make the assumption that you had a little bit of time to read all this stuff here, but ultimately we orient for communities, cities, businesses, and all sorts of different offerings for each of those different stakeholder groups, which of course cross over. So, what's our theory of change? It took me a little while to actually say that we, in many ways, are a trade school. Now, we do things, I think, a little bit different than a traditional trade school, how we bring in our experts and our practice keepers, I'll talk about later here on campus, and how do we build curriculum, how do we do our sector analysis. But really, we do try to give tools and trades for communities to grow earth-conscious industries. And you'll see me talk a lot about that, right? That relationship between communities and industries. And we think it's really important to make sure that we're providing an ROI for resilience and for folks to have jobs and to build wealth within their communities. And we think that it's really important to make sure there's something in it for the industries that are doing this work, right? If we're talking about systems change at a high level, we need to make sure we approach it from both sides. The other thing we talk about a lot here is nature as infrastructure. We really think nature is infrastructure. So when you deploy nature-based solutions, whether it's urban forestry to cool overheated or underserved communities, or whether you're using oyster reefs instead of concrete seawalls, there's a lot of different ways to deploy nature alongside the built environment, right? We're not purists here. We think that there's going to be some concrete every now and then. But we try to figure out where we can have those thoughtful public-private partnerships, which ultimately are solving our collective problems. And we do it through the lens of jobs and infrastructure. So how are we transforming communities while growing industries? In a bunch of different ways. As promised, there's a lot on all these slides, but we try to always look at it through these 3 different perspectives. And we say strengthen local resilience at the city level, but the truth is that's something that's happening for communities as well and for businesses as well. So each of these lines isn't meant to be locked for one versus the other. We just tried to match them up the best we could. But again, these are co-benefits working towards a triple bottom line as we talk about carbon, biodiversity, and then ultimately the financial gains and benefits for the work that we do and the communities we serve. So what are our programs at a high level? And we'll go into some of the more detail a little bit later on. We have 4 main buckets right now. We imagine we're going to grow these over time. But again, we're only 4 years old here, and we've come a long way real fast. We've had about 5,500 people come through in those 4 years, including building out our half-mile-long campus I'll talk about later. But our 4 buckets are nature-based solutions, right? So those are things where you are maybe using biomimicry or actually following natural processes to deploy nature again as infrastructure. That leads into green infrastructure. We do climate job training, and then technical skills and some project management. As you're probably seeing, there's a lot of overlap. This Venn diagram we actually had originally on this slide, and it was a big mess because they're all the same. They're all the same, but it just depends on the actual certificates that we're training people on. And again, it's that arc that we talked about earlier, which is play and discovery all the way up into job placement. So you might be working with green infrastructure for community projects, planting trees, right? But you also might be running certifications, accredited courses we do here for things like urban forestry. So I think rather than speak about the abstract of all of this, it really helps to give a concrete kind of tangible example, right? Like how is the money flowing? How are the grants flowing? What are our deliverables with these programs? How are we partnering? And I'm going to get into more partner slides later. We've got a lot of different partners, and we're really proud of our endorsements and all sorts of things. But there's a grant recently that we were awarded with a coalition between Greenbelt Alliance, the REAP Climate Center, and Pacific Coast Community Services. We are all working on the exact same deliverables. So we're not taking portions of this off into our own pockets. We're all working towards the same thing at different levels. But this comes through the California Jobs First initiative, which is rolling down through Bay Area Jobs First. And then we have a local administrator of this program, All Home, and we're grateful for all of these parties and these partners. But we won the Regenerative Jobs program, and it's about $530,000. And the grant is for 4 specific disciplines. And we have a regimented process, I'll get to in the next slide, about how do we go about rolling out these programs end to end. But this is for accredited certificates and training in the categories of fungi-based bioremediation, biochar, vermiculture, and composting, right? Now, in some cases, we'll build new curriculum. In other cases, we'll partner with existing practitioners or people who have these. Some are a little more advanced. Biochar, for example, it's a pretty mature industry by now, still emergent by many technology evaluations, but it is it's pretty advanced, right? In terms of how are we using biochar for green concrete as a soil additive to replace carbon black, right? There's a lot of things going on there, right? It's pretty broad. One of the more emergent fields is the fungi-based bioremediation, right? Using fungi to eat away hydrocarbons. Not as broadly applicable, takes a little bit longer. There's going to be some more maturity and work to do in that industry sector analysis to build these up. But nonetheless, these are the 4 categories for this grant. We are delivering 40 clients, so 4 different cohorts of 10 is a pilot program into each one after we've developed all of it. And the result is going to be the 4 curriculums, either created, licensed, or enhanced. And then we'll have 8 instructors trained. The total objective here, though, is to support emergent sectors and to get more climate jobs into what we would consider those high road job categories, right? So how do we do this, right? This is a little bit more on the project management side, probably more detailed than you guys need, but we end up with some folks often with a lot of follow-up questions about, well, how do you do the thing? Well, we follow some pretty standardized guidelines. We've made these our own in little ways, but the truth is we really try to keep it high level and follow industry standards for the sector analysis and the outreach, right? We're identifying different employers and trade organizations within these sectors. We're figuring out the baseline, the minimum and the maximum amount of knowledge people need to have to be valuable in the spaces for hiring, you know, all of that basic workforce development stuff. And what we end up with is through our partner, Pacific Coast Community Services, who is accredited through CARF as well as the Bureau for Private Post-Secondary Education, right? They're an organization who we've given a small space on campus too, and they run some of their remote operations here. They work on the accreditation side. And so you'll see throughout all of these, whether we're building out the physical spaces, whether we're running the cohorts through for the job certificates, there's a lot of different things that each one of the partners are doing in this process. The other thing I like to mention that I think is a little unique about what we do here, and we're super proud of it, is sure, it's great when we can support the sectors and we can get people a certificate. But the truth is, as you work with more vulnerable communities, sometimes you find that it's more helpful, and I believe it's helpful, frankly, for everyone, including myself, right? If you haven't taken a DISC assessment in your life, I recommend you do it. It gives you some insights to who you are and how you work with other people. It makes you better. And so rather than just have the certificate, we always partner and couple in the professional development and wraparound services. So advocacy in the workplace, resume writing, interview training, job seeking support, right? That last mile. And then the most important part is, as we work towards placement into these emergent sectors, we always do the follow-up, right? Well, not always. When the program funds it, we do the follow-up. So this is a little bit how we roll that out. And we've got a lot going on our campus. Sometimes I like to joke and call it it's a half-mile long of be careful what you wish for, because you might just have a whole lot of stuff to do. But either way, we're really proud of the space that we built out. And again, we've been around about 4 years. We've developed about 40% of the space with 5,500 people coming through. That's a lot of volunteers, community groups, corporate team building experiences, workforce development programs where people getting training, as well as people doing work experience. So a lot through our different campus spaces. And, this slide, I always debate whether to leave it in here or not, right? I feel like it should come maybe with a seizure warning or something. There's a lot going on. It should have a strobe. It's so much. But if you can just kind of zoom out for a second, and if you're watching this in the recording, feel free to pause here and really dive in. I'm not going to go into all of this, but this is really everything we do here, right? You might look at these 3 center sections as business units, right? If you want to separate it out that way. But they're also paths of engagement, right? So we bring people through the journey of volunteering into curated experiences, into workforce training. You don't always have to follow that. But if you look at our curriculum, right, a curriculum is a series of modules. And a module in the workforce development context also is a curated experience for a workshop. So there's a lot of co-benefits in terms of how do we engage school groups, how do we engage corporates, how do we engage folks who are coming through for training. And again, job seekers going on one side, and climate resilience and climate change mitigation coming out the other. A lot to unpack in here, but we're proud of it. All right, reap by the numbers. Some of these seem modest to folks, and we put this up because we're really proud that we have made so much progress over such a short period of time, really on a shoestring budget. And I think that just goes to show that having those different buckets of volunteering, curated experiences, and workforce development allows us to do more with less. And I'll talk a little bit more about the campus partners we have. We call them our practice keepers, which are the organizations that we give space to that also operate out of REAP and help us manage curriculum and other things within their sectors, right? Like the Wild Oyster Project is based here. Bay Beef Hives is based here. All of those represent our opportunities to partner and develop new job training programs. So we've been around 4 years. We raised $2.5 million from what I like to say 700 people. That's kind of amazing. Some of that, though, is also services revenue, right? So we are partnered with the Native American Health Center, the Department of Labor, a number of different groups who actually pay us a service fee for some of the things we offer here on campus. So we're not just on grants and gifts alone. And then the work experience staff. We've really been lucky to have a number of fellows from the California Climate Action Corps. We have folks through Self-Help for the Elderly and Seniors coming through, all to help shape our programs and our half-mile long campus. So a lot in here. We're proud of these numbers, and we're just getting started. So there's a page on our website. You can find it, I believe, in our footer. And go ahead and look at our endorsements, read the letters that we've gotten. There's a lot of fun stuff. We're really proud of these things here. Beyond the work that we do for the Alameda County Workforce Development Board, or the Sea Level Rise Adaptation Planning Group, or the Urban Forestry Planning Group. I'm also a Navy and EPA appointee on the Restoration Advisory Board for the cleanup of the old base. We're a impact and workforce advisor for the Chamber of Commerce. So we do a lot in the space to be where the jobs are and where the opportunities are, and just to serve our community. But we're proud of Alameda's Greenest Business and some other things here. And again, this is a snapshot of what we call our noteworthy partners. All of our partners are noteworthy. I'm sorry for even having this slide phrased such a way. I wasn't offended until I got here. But anyway, these are just a sample of some of the ones we are really proud of and work very closely with. And some of these are our funders as well. So this is challenging, right? When we are largely a volunteer-run organization that is supported through on-campus organizations that you give space to, where you're offering workforce training programs, but also you have people volunteering in a pro bono context. Like, what is our org? What is our team? So again, we're focused on regeneration. And I didn't start with saying, but we started REAP as regeneration, education, aquaculture, and permaculture, but really regeneration being the key to what we do and how we try to have things cross industries, cross sector, triple bottom line. And I think how we've organized from a people side also reflects that kind of way of aligning with nature and how those systems, how those mycelial networks tie out, right? So what are we seeking? The truth is, we're seeking a dollar. Every dollar helps. We are a 501c3 and we get by. And so I never want to lose that scrappy nature, but more helps, right? So we have folks who give on a regular basis as individuals what they can, and we are so grateful for those recurring donations. But if we roll up to what our big picture needs are, this is a snapshot of it, right? And so for those who know, nonprofit land, you're probably aware there's a difference between, operations and capacity versus programming and engagement, right? Versus the long-term capital needs. So these are separate buckets. There's a lot of overlap between all of them. But the truth is, somebody giving $10,000 moves the dial for us. It really does. It's super helpful for helping all the people that we serve. But our baseline annually is about 1.5 million a year. That's what we need, where we're not having to wear like 9 hats per person. It helps with mental health and other things. And that's our baseline. Truthfully, we haven't gotten there yet, right? So we've been really running on a shoestring this whole time, but that's where we are. We've been around long enough to know what our needs are to maintain this campus and otherwise. We can offer some baseline programming through that 1.5, right? A lot of volunteering, a lot of engagement, a lot of trees in the ground, a lot of workshops led. But really where the rubber hits the road for us, to use a petrochemical reference in a climate, I'll get back to that later, where the magic happens, we shall say, is on the programming, the engagement side of things, right? How many workforce certificate clients can we serve and place in climate jobs, right? That's where the magic happens. And, if I'm being really honest kind of with myself, and I think this is okay, but maybe I'll test market it on you guys right now. The people we often serve who are looking for a job sometimes aren't looking for a job in climate. They're just looking for a job, right? They're trying to help their family or the community in some other way. And so that is our mission as a nonprofit. We are doing climate change mitigation by helping people serve their immediate needs that might not be related to this higher level goal that's our mission, right? And that's kind of our secret sauce, right? You might be looking at it as, well, one model's going out, one model's coming in. There's the idea that we can help people find value in an existing framework while we transition them into another framework, right? And that could just be from moving from oil and gas into climate work, or that could be somebody having a job where they're not even thinking about climate at all. So either way, on the capital side, I've got a little bit in the weeds there, but I think it's an important distinction. The magic happens in the middle. Over on the right side, our capital needs. We don't own our land yet. That's risk, right? A savvy donor would probably take me to term on that. But the truth is, we've been working with the railroad to purchase this land. We've done our surveys and our title reports. We're getting there. But again, we're a nonprofit, so there's a long way to go. And I'll tell you, the shifting sands of the federal funding environment right now have made things a little more slippery than they had been just 2 months ago. I'll just let that hang. So we do also have the opportunity to purchase the 11,000 square foot building next door for admin and some of the infrastructure needs. But our current campus is totally off grid. We make our own power with solar and other things, so we're proud of all that. Right now we have committed for the year about 700,000. We're projecting about 500 in existing services revenue that we see coming. There's going to be more. That pipeline, I don't know if that's accurate anymore. I think I got to take it down because it includes some federal funding that we just don't know where that stands today. So we're probably going to have to slash that by, I would say in terms of submitted grants, at least 70% coming off of there. That's painful. We put a lot of work, a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into those, but it is what it is in this moment. And again, that's a pipeline number. So for those who don't know that term, that means what we have submitted for, not what we have currently won. So we're ambitious. And, ultimately, why partner with REAP to create a better future? Well, maybe you just want a better future. You can just have the one reason. But there's a lot of other reasons, whether you're looking at it from the community side, individuals, industries, global impact, right? Ultimately, we're trying to get people jobs working on behalf of climate, right? And we think that there's a lot of opportunity for the economic benefit, for the social benefit, for the carbon benefit, for the biodiversity benefit, right? So again, I really flew through a lot of these things. And there's just 1 or 2 more slides. And so what are we trying to do in the next 18 months? Well, we've had some opportunities to work with other organizations that want to adopt our model. So helping other groups transition into what we're doing. or open additional centers. That comes in time. We can show you a 5-year strategic plan on another meeting. We're looking for more partnerships, right? People that we can bring on campus and we can build more programming with, right? We're going to actually model this out and have a playbook here. That's a whole funding objective of its own. Like, how do we actually build a Boston Consulting Group, McKinsey level playbook for all that we are doing across all of our things, so we can then hand that out to other people to give it to them so they can do the same kind of work, right? If somebody wants to eat our lunch and do a better job, so be it, because the social benefit and the climate benefit of what we're trying to do. But I think it makes more sense to partner. So why don't you ask and we'll see what we can do. That being said, I mentioned in the beginning, I'm Jonathan DeLong, and you can find me on LinkedIn. Shameless plug. You can also look at a TED Talk I did. It's a pretty old now, but I welcome partnerships, and I think I appreciate everybody sitting through all this. I'll take some questions here in a moment, but for those watching the recording, thanks for coming, and hopefully we meet.